Paul Krugman says the country lost a lot of credibility over the past 4 years. The Nobel Prize-winning economist is more optimistic about the future under Biden. I asked Krugman what will be the hardest thing to reverse from the Trump era.
It's the things that Trump didn't do are more important than the things he did. I mean, there are some really important things. Let me just say that I think the dismantling of trust is actually going to be the most enduring legacy. It's going to be, and it's not just the trust in the election process, God help us, but also things like, will we ever be able to, will we ever be able to make international negotiations, whether it's about trade or anything else, in the way we used to, when the world now knows we're the kind of country that can elect somebody like Trump, who will break agreements at will, who will just basically tear up throw away the playing pieces. So that's going to haunt any future administration. And then the fact of the matter is we wasted. We haven't done anything about infrastructure. We haven't done anything about climate policy. And it's going to be really hard to play catch up on all of that after having wasted 4 years.
Joe Biden has said he's not going to immediately reverse or remove the tariffs on China, good or bad.
I actually have to say, in terms of the economics, it's a bad thing, but not that bad a thing. Protectionism as a threat is overrated. And look, the political considerations. Do you want to be make one of your first things be something that exposes you to charges, no matter how frivolous, of being a patsy of China? And there's the further point, which is that it's not as if the Chinese were actually innocent here. The Trump policy towards China was totally boneheaded, but maybe now we can actually get serious about industrial policy, intellectual property, the things we should have been going on about instead of the bilateral deficit. So, no, I mean, I kind of feel about this the way I felt about some of the trade negotiations Obama was trying to do at the very end, which is, whatever the argument for them politically, it's going to be a liability on the U.S. scene, and we have more important fish to fry here.
What is the most, I'll follow your metaphor. What is your most important fish that needs frying?
Okay. What we really need is investment. Build back better, as Biden says. It's we need an infrastructure program. We need a lot of public investment that needs to be tied in with climate policy that's hitting crisis stage. I'm not all that worried about the first year and a half of a Biden presidency, because I think we're going to have a spontaneous economic rebound once the vaccine is out there. But the longer term problems are acute, and it's much more important to find a way to the lack of investment in the future is a much more important liability for the United States than the little bit of protectionism that we've gotten.
There's always room for optimism, but is there room for realistic optimism?
No, if this election had turned out the way that the pollsters had thought it would, with a clear Democratic control of the Senate and a large majority in the House, then I'd be very optimistic. As it is, it's marginal, and but the problems are all political. I mean, we want to say this, that the economics now of what we should be doing is pretty clear. If we think of, I think the Biden people do, that climate is the overarching issue over the medium and long term. Well, technology is our friend. We've had this miracle of technological progress in renewable energy, which actually means that getting to a sustainable economy looks far easier than anyone could have imagined. If anything, what we've been seeing under the current administration is a desperate attempt to keep coal alive, when the market doesn't want it to stay alive. So no, I mean, the technology is our friend. We don't have hard choices, because bond markets are our friend with these very low interest rates. So it's all about politics. And I think what we've learned is that nobody knows anything about the political.
I can already sense a very marginal shift in where you're turning your firepower. After the last 4 years, you've had your firepower very firmly on the president, etc. But I can now feel it turning on the Republicans in Congress more so.
Well, that's obviously. I mean, What we had hoped that was that those of us in the pundit class had hoped that was that we could finally enter a world where we didn't have to keep thinking about Donald Trump. And unfortunately, that's probably not going to happen entirely. But no, at this point, Trump has only a few more weeks of policy damage to do. And at that point, it's going to be Republicans in Congress who will be the issue. I mean, there may be. I think that we'll have to. I certainly will be prepared to criticize stuff coming out of the Biden administration if I think it's ill-considered, and there may be a few things along those lines already. But no, I mean, this is going to be mostly about what do we do and who's standing in the way of doing obviously productive things.